Hi, this is Irving Steele here on Local Issues. So glad to have you here with us. We have a special guest. It's Meredith Maher. She's a local artist here in Connecticut, and she has grown quite a following online and offline for her unique and creative artwork. So welcome, Meredith. So great to have you here with us.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. And talking about local issues, that you said you went to Montville High School, is that correct?
That's right.
And so you kind of know the area relatively well.
Oh yes, I've been driving around the area since I got my license.
Okay. And from there, did that kind of help you to get excited about this beautiful map and other maps that you started to draw?
Oh yeah, it all started with a house I bought in New London that I've been fixing up. I wanted to have something I could hang in my house that said New London and had local places I like to frequent, and it was something I went out seeking but couldn't find really on the market. So I'm like, I could probably make a map myself, and that's kind of how it all started.
Oh, that's great. They sometimes say that necessity is the mother of invention. So
It is.
case in point with you right there. And you don't always think of someone who's so talented with different kinds of art like this and connected to kind of housing and real estate development. Can you share a little bit how that started, going over to New London and your house there?
Oh yeah, so obviously we have a affordability issue in the whole state right now. So I spent several months seeking a house that I could fix up. It was really the only way that I could get into the house market. And it was also a way that I could relieve some of the stresses I had at work and fix up something and make something my own. So I went in houses that were crumbling down to missing foundations to anything you could name it. But I found a really great house in New London and have been fixing it up on my Instagram and showing people with zero knowledge, just like myself, that you can actually learn these things on YouTube and other great channels. So
that's awesome. I mean, that's the amazing thing right now is you go onto YouTube. Of course, you can find this show there, but you can also find out how to fix up a house, all these different things. That's pretty cool.
Exactly. Yeah.
And also, I mean, you mentioned housing affordability, and I was just talking about that with a friend of mine. And in the last, 5 years, housing prices in Niantic, New London, different places have pretty much doubled. It's unbelievable. So how can we better support the affordability, do you think?
I think it starts with wages. Wages don't support the natural rise of inflation and other things. So I think that's a big issue for millennials and a lot of people looking to get into the housing market for the first time. I luckily bought in 2019 and bought the worst house on the street that no one wanted. And I think that's really where it all starts.
I completely agree. I mean, if you look, even if someone's starting at a minimum wage job, $13, $15 an hour, full-time, 40 hours a week, they're making what, plus or minus $20,000 a year.
Oh yeah.
How can you live off that anywhere? So.
And I studied economics when I went to college at UConn, so it's an issue that's near and dear to my heart. The stagnant wages, how we really haven't seen a wage increase since 1960s time. It's pretty much been stagnant since.
Stagnant in one sense, and my understanding is maybe at the bottom it's been very stagnant, but at the top we're seeing, Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos and these kind of people that are earning millions and billions more than they ever did in the past.
Oh, absolutely. And prior to this, my day job was working in executive compensation in Stamford, Connecticut.
Oh, so you know all about this.
So I was seeing crazy, insane wages rising with CEOs and top executives, while you weren't seeing that across the board.
Gotcha. And maybe you could explain a little bit how the process was finding your spot in New London. How did you find this house that was the worst one on the street?
Well, I saw a Zillow picture for a house. It had 2 pictures, and those are the best Zillow houses to look at because it means no one wants to see them.
Just 2 photos.
Yeah, no one is willing to risk their Saturday to go look at a house that they can't even pre-vet, which is a lot of the process of looking for a house. You want to do most of the vetting online prior to actually getting into it. So it had 2 photos, and none of the photos were inside. It was of the door, and it was a Google Street View.
So you didn't know so much about the house.
So I didn't really know much, but I was really excited because competition is so insane. So I was looking at anything and everything that was within my budget.
Especially in 2019, that was a tough time to get anything.
Oh yeah, it was tough.
So then you go through, you get this house, and you realize right away there's a lot that you need to fix up on it.
Oh yeah, and I had a whole big plan, but when you're actually standing in there, and this person that had passed away that lived in there prior, there was over 200 years worth of stuff. The house had never been sold before.
Oh my goodness.
So I'm standing in this essentially a hoarder house, and my plans and my reality were not really matching up. So the motivation was a little tough in the beginning because I was feeling a little overwhelmed. But with little wins, like everything, little wins will keep you going forward.
Yeah, and also for that kind of experience, I'm sure you needed to learn a lot of different things right off the bat. What were some of the first things that you had to figure out how to fix up?
The first thing that was important to me to fix up was my bedroom.
You need a spot to sleep.
The first night that I slept there, it was on a couch that was not my couch, and I was surrounded by mountains, literal mountains of books and dust and everything, and I said, if I'm going to be here, I need a place to sleep. So I take things usually one room at a time. So the bedroom was the first thing, and I cleared it all out and painted it. So I realized painting was a lot harder than I anticipated.
Because you were doing this all on your own.
Exactly, and I was all by myself.
Wow.
And yeah, it was kind of lonely at first working on it, but like I said, watching YouTube and talking to other people who were experiencing the same thing that I was, that really helped.
Yeah, and I mean, you can go back and think of something like Tom Sawyer and these different things that if you kind of make it fun maybe, and it's almost meditative, just doing that painting day in and day out, maybe that helps a little bit.
Oh, definitely. Once you get started, the flow will come. You just have to get started.
Yeah, just have to get going on it. And did you have any challenges? I'm not sure if you needed to find out outside contractors and people to help you.
I really could not afford a contractor. So anything that I could learn or ask my dad about, he was my main contractor in the very early days. So I've had the house for about 2 years now.
Okay.
So he was showing me, you don't do that, you don't use these screws for this type of wood, you don't use this for that. So I definitely relied on him as my main contractor.
Well, why not? I mean, he has that knowledge and wisdom. Why not learn from his knowledge to make it easier for you?
Absolutely, yeah.
And then once you started to change some of these places, I noticed that you use a lot of your creativity in this development. Can you share a little bit how you make it arranged in such a nice manner in the house?
Oh yeah, so mostly I'm influenced by television and old movies. So the space, I like to have a transitional sort of feel, which if you're not familiar with the term in the design world, it's mixing in old classic elements with a more modern feel, more comfortable and clean feel to it. So this transitional design that I was going after was pretty easy to do because the house was built in 1803.
1803.
Yes, so the traditional elements were already there. It was modernizing it a little bit, but without taking away the character.
And then from there, you've continued to do more interior design, is my understanding, with other people outside of your own home. Is that correct?
I have with some friends and family, but nothing too crazy. I definitely have helped some followers of mine, giving them advice. But I would love to do more interior design and learn more about that.
Cool. And I'm curious a little bit of the local community in New London since you're living there now, in terms of artists and creatives. How have you felt or seen anything along those lines?
I would love to meet more artists in the area. With COVID happening, I noticed that there were a lot more artists leaving the city. So one of my close friends, Katie, I met her through Instagram, and she said that she had left because of COVID, and she's now living in Waterford. And it was just really nice to see creatives outside of the city. I lived in Stamford for about 2 years, and close to the hustle and bustle of everything. And when I moved over to New London, I was afraid that I wouldn't have that sort of community.
So it's nice you can connect with these people at different ways, different channels to start building that community. And how has it been? You connect with her in Waterford and other places. How are you feeling in terms of the broader artist creative community here in southeastern Connecticut?
I wish I could meet more creatives. My DMs are always open to meet more people, but it has been hard with COVID to meet people physically, and you can't really feel their energy or get a real deep dive on their perspective on things. But there has been a great artist community on TikTok, which I have found has been really, really nice to see. A lot of people with day jobs like me, they wanted to, they had all these extra hours that they weren't going out, and they weren't going out to restaurants or visiting their friends, and they were getting more in touch with their creative side, which has been amazing.
Totally, and I know that obviously pandemic and COVID's been terrible for everybody, but looking at maybe one positive is just that people have a little bit more time maybe at home. They can pursue some of these passions and things they want to try. So I think it's a great point.
Yeah, I'm definitely on the optimist side of things. I think with any restriction, globally or personally, comes a boom on the other side. So I think the restrictions that we faced during COVID really led up to this creative outpour that we're seeing now and experiencing.
Totally, I can totally understand that. For a while, I was actually working on a factory floor in Asia, and it was the most monotonous, hardest work I've ever done, doing the same thing 12 hours a day, and then living in basically just one room full of cement around me.
Yeah.
But it was during that time where I was maybe the most creative that I've been. I was writing poetry, I was writing some fiction. It's funny how these different changes, like you said, can spark this new level of creativity.
Yes, and you can't grow without resistance, and that's definitely a cornerstone to my beliefs.
Yeah, I can't grow without resistance. I like that. And you said you were over in Stamford, and then you kind of came maybe back to this region. I'm curious how you are able to do it, to be an artist and creative, especially in line with how hard it is to just get by in the current society economically.
So I was driving back and forth to Stamford for a long time.
That's a long drive.
And for a lot of people, COVID was a blessing in the way that you got 2 hours back from commuting. So it was really hard in the beginning, struggling the both. But the amount of happiness from actually seeing progress in my life and building something and being able to paint and do art was outweighing the negatives from being restricted and being at home. So it was worth it to me, the sacrifices I had to make. I was definitely eating ramen noodles and not going out and not seeing my friends for a long time, but I mean, a small price to pay for what people are experiencing, definitely more difficult situations than I had. So I wouldn't say that it was easy, but I wouldn't say I had it too hard.
And that's one thing I hear, because I think it's really inspiring what you've been able to do, and hopefully this inspires many others to do the same. That I hear often, oh, I love doing this, but I never know how I could ever make a living doing this, or I'm really good at this, but I need to go have this 9-to-5 job. And I think as a society, a lot of us kind of have that mentality. It's hard to take your own path and just what you're doing.
I think a lot, it should always start as a and mentality. A lot of people have an either or mentality. I can only do this if I sacrifice this, but there are 24 hours in a day. And if you are really honest with yourself and you look at your 24 hours and see how many hours you're doing things that aren't projecting you to be your best self, they add up quickly. So I think anyone could create more, and I think more people are, and I really am excited to see it.
Totally. It's so much about choices. Like you said, we all have this time. What are we doing? How are we spending our time? And you saying the whole and mentality makes me think a lot about improv, that the whole ethos and mentality of improv is yes and, trying to continue things, build upon one another, and make it better.
Oh, absolutely. And then.
I
think that's a big part of improv too, and good writing is and then, and the creative process is, so we have this, and then what comes next. So you have to start acknowledging where you're at to be able to make some changes or go someplace interesting.
Totally. So you started to kind of pursue more of your creative path, and then maybe you could tell me some of the initial projects that you started to work on.
So my first series of oil paintings was at the beginning of the pandemic, and they were mostly around, if I'm looking at it from this perspective, you can only connect the dots going backwards.
Exactly.
It was a lot of lonely individuals looking back at my art, and I think it totally reflected the time and how people are feeling and the anxiety that we all felt. So that was kind of the start of it. And then when I actually got the house, I was able to work on that full time almost.
And so you're doing some oils, and then what were some of the next projects after that you were working on?
So after that, I really wanted to do some personal mixed media work. People are things I didn't think people might like, but I wanted. A lot of my art stems from something that I want that I don't see, and if I can't have it, I'll make it myself, which is kind of the necessity, like you said. So I started these puzzle collages of different feelings, and I call them puzzle paintings because I apply paint in the same way. I have to find a particular color and then apply it to where it feels right. So those have been my most favorite projects to work on. Not everyone likes them, but I love them, and I've had a really good response on TikTok and other channels, people that want to see more abstract art as well.
That's cool. And at the end of the day, it's probably the most important that you do something that you really love and you're doing it for yourself.
Oh yeah, I think art is so personal, and art that isn't personal, people really don't want to see because you can feel that someone is trying to sell something that they don't believe in. So a lot of these art groups that I'm in, a lot of people are making stuff that I can tell their heart's not really in it, and it definitely doesn't carry through to making a really good piece. The foundations of it is that it means something to you, and it's always going to be unique if it's personal.
Definitely, and that's one thing I teach at a local college here, a couple classes, and I always start off with talking to my students about why. You know, Simon Sinek has this great TED Talk of saying, why are you doing something? And having that passion, just as you said, people can feel it. It's different than saying, oh, I'm making this flower arrangement just to sell it to you because I want to make some money.
Exactly.
And I'm really curious too of how you're able to, as you just said, kind of go off on your own creative ideas that you don't see it out there, but it's in your mind. Can you talk a little bit about that creative process? How does that come about?
Well, sometimes it depends. Sometimes it's the middle of the night and I'm waking up, typing things in my notes app on my phone.
In the middle of the night, you just type it out.
Or I'm just scribbling something when I'm at dinner with my family, and if I look at it 24 hours later and I'm still just as excited about it, then I know then it's something to pursue. There are a lot of ideas that never see the light of day because when you look at it with fresh eyes, it doesn't have the same spark that it once did, or maybe the moment has passed culturally or in your own personal life where it's not true anymore, what you were trying to do.
That's great. And I think, just as you said, these different environments or maybe putting it down, sleeping on it, it really does help to spark a little creativity. Steve Jobs was really famous. He always liked to have his meetings when he was walking, that he felt kind of having this body motion, feeling the air, maybe the sun, it sparked creativity for him as well.
Oh, yes. I definitely agree with that because the best ideas come when you are living life, not when you're sitting in a room just by yourself, but when you're experiencing the world and you see holes or problems or things that could be improved or things that could get better or things that there's lack of. I think that's where the best ideas come from. And when you're walking and you're moving and you're seeing different things and interacting with people, you can observe and create.
And then how do you take it to the next level of actually creating? I feel like that first step is maybe a little bit easier. You kind of maybe identify something or you come up with an idea. How do you go to that next step of creating?
It's really about consistency. I think that's small habits. There's a great book called Atomic Habits that I'm a big fan of. And a lot of people believe that things spark out of nowhere, but really they are the top of the boiling pot, the foam that comes over. From every degree that had changed from 1 to 2 or 2 to 3, it was at the boiling point where things actually tip over. So in that sense, every single day coming back to the burner and turning it on and making sure things are happening, things are going to occur naturally if you just stay at it every single day.
That's true, and that's a great book too. I read that before, and I forget if it was that book or another one, but I think they were talking about just the 1% improvements.
Oh, yeah.
And over a long time, if you just make really, really small improvements every day, over a year, 10 years, lifetime, it can completely change everything.
Oh, yeah, and there's so much time. I look back that I was spent on TikTok just scrolling, or on Facebook just scrolling through videos, and I was doing a lot of absorption, but I wasn't actually producing. So moving from obtaining information to actually producing information is actually a lot more difficult, and I became much less of a critic when I actually started doing things.
Yeah, because you're putting your own self out there, your own ideas, your heart is in that artwork.
Yes, and there's a lot of bravery to it. So,
definitely.
And bravery is a skill like anything else that you can develop over time with continual improvement.
And I think it's a really good point that you raised, going from just absorbing things. Maybe you're reading books, you're reading blog posts, and then shifting that to actually maybe writing that novel you really want to write, or writing that blog post that maybe inspires the community.
Oh, absolutely. And a lot of people have a fear of being bad or being mediocre or other sorts of things. They don't want to do something if they're not immediately good at it, or after a couple weeks, pretty good at it. So you have to accept that the first draft is going to be bad. And if you can remove your ego from that, you can actually get to something interesting. First drafts are never good.
Yeah. How do you balance that with the whole idea that you're naturally talented as an artist and that's kind of your path, as opposed to, hey, this is something you like and you just work really hard and you get good at it? Do you think there's a balance on that?
I think I had some natural inclination towards art when I was a kid. There's a local creative award they gave out to the kids in the state, and I got one of those awards.
Congratulations.
When I was a little kid in 5th grade, I think. And so I had the feeling that there was something there. But also, if you are naturally gifted at something, those are often the people that give up the easiest, because if the fifth step isn't as easy to them as the first three steps were, they'll give up on the fifth step because they don't have the discipline or the ego to let go of, that they can be not so good at something and move to the next level.
That's an interesting thought, and just providing that opportunity for them to take the path to go down there. And
Absolutely.
we just have a couple minutes left here, so maybe you could share a little bit. You brought in this beautiful artwork of Niantic, which was ranked, I think, the top small town in the country last year. So maybe you could share a little bit what we have here and how you got started with that.
Oh, so yeah, just like most of the art hanging in my home, it was one of those things that I wanted to see. I started with New London, as I said, and people were requesting Niantic like crazy. They were saying, when is Niantic coming out? I want to get it for my daughter, for my friends. So it's been not only a great thing for people to have for themselves, but to give as a gift with their memories of places that they grew up going to, or even places that don't exist anymore. I've drawn on maps for people, which has been really nice to hear their memories, and a lot of people have cried talking to me about people that are no longer with us too, that they spent time going these places with.
That's special. Yeah, because you think a lot of people, maybe they live in the Hartford area and they come down to the shore for the summer, or like you said, people from New York City coming up here, maybe they're artists, and we have a great history of that. It's really close to their heart, some of these places.
Oh, yes. And I think you asked something about tourism as well.
Exactly.
When I made it for my own home, and I was thinking, oh, maybe someone else might like this for their house. I also wanted to showcase really the beautiful towns and the people and the things that there is to do around here that you may not know about. But the locals know. So there are a lot of vacation homes, like you said, and I think it would be a great thing to have in an Airbnb or a home that people rent out occasionally, that someone that's not from the area might find some good spots.
Totally. And we just have a little bit of time left, so I'd love you to share, how do people find out about you? You have a beautiful webpage. Can you share a little bit about some of the ways for people to find out about you?
Yeah, so my website is my first name, last name. It's meredithmaher.com, M-A-H-E-R,
Yep.
which is not exactly how it's spelled. It's Irish. And it's just meredithmaher.com/maps, or you could just go to meredithmaher.com and click maps, and you'll see all the towns that I've done so far: Clinton, Mystic, New London, Groton, and my Instagram is my first name, period, my last name, Meredith, period, Maher.
Awesome. So you do a bunch of these maps, but you also sometimes do customizations for people however they want it.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for being here. Great to have you as a guest.
It was nice talking with you. Thanks.